Roberto De Zerbi has just joined Tottenham Hotspurs. Make sure to like and subscribe. And let's get straight into it because I did not see this coming. There were rumors, there was talks, but I just didn't think that De Zerbi would join Spurs that is in a relegation battle. I didn't see it, and I thought maybe if he joined, if they'd survive, and then the summer he'd come in and start with this project, right? Because he's pretty good at making projects. But I didn't think he would join immediately. And then you see the contract, 5-year deal with no relegation exit clause. So if they get relegated, he is staying with them and bringing them back straight back up. And I rate De Zerbi so highly. I like him so much. When I made like manager a video about managers who are going to be on the market, who I rate highly, Roberto De Zerbi was one of them. I rate him very highly for not only what he did at Brighton, but what he did at Marseille. They didn't do too well in the Champions League, but in the League on, they were playing very well. They were very attacking. When they faced Real Madrid in the Champions League in the league phase, they were a very, very dangerous team. They were very dangerous. They had them on the ropes a couple of times. They had very good players, and the way Roberto De Zerbi plays, attacking, exciting. I really like the style he plays. And I think that's something that Tottenham fans expect from their teams. They know they're not going to go out and win a Premier League out of nowhere. They know they're not going to go out and win the Champions League. But so that's why they want to enjoy the football. And I think with someone like De Zerbi, the style he plays and how aggressive he is in and outside the field, because a lot of times he has fell out with the directors, with players because of how aggressive he is on and off the pitch. He has fell out with many directors at Marseille. He fell out with a couple directors, and other teams. He fell out with players. But I rate him very highly, and I think in the place that Tottenham are right now, last season ending in 17th, this season fighting in a relegation battle, I think they need someone like that. They need a heavy hand, and Roberto De Zerbi is the main man. Over the course of the weeks, I've been watching Spurs because of the idea that they're going to be in relegation zone. They're going to be battling West Ham, battling Nottingham Forest. But now I'm gonna also watch them. Apart from that, because they're still in that relegation zone, I'm gonna watch them to watch Roberto De Zerbi football. Because at Brighton, he finished sixth place with Brighton. Like, not many managers since then has finished sixth place with Brighton, and they were playing amazing football. They were playing very, very like enjoyable games, and they would win those games. Sometimes managers play very aggressive and very attacking football, but they just don't win the games. They concede a lot, but De Zerbi is the opposite. He plays very good, and he scores a lot of goals, and he wins the games. It didn't work for him too well in the Champions League, which is why he decided to resign from Marseille. But in a team like this, where there's a lot of players with big egos, there's a lot of players that need that extra heavy hand on them, that needs to scream at them and yell at them and show them who is the real manager, who is going to go in there and tell them what to do. Because Roberto De Zerbi, if he is that guy when it comes to putting his footprint on every single player, putting his footprint, putting his power on the team straight there. If he doesn't like you, he's not gonna play you. If you had a bad attitude towards him, he's not gonna play you. So I think he's a very organized manager from what we've seen over his entire career so far. He's very he's very picky in different areas, right? He wants specific players in different areas. He likes the attacking, the possession. He is that type of manager. And when it comes I look at some of these Spurs players, right? I like the center backs, I think they're very solid. They've had terrible attitudes this season. They've had terrible moments and just a terrible season. But I don't think Van de Ven's that bad, even though I don't really like him because of the way he's treated his past managers and the disrespect he showed towards them. But they're good players. Christian Romero and Van de Ven are good players. Pedro Porro going forward is a good player, a solid player. Jet Spence, I'm not the biggest fan of Jet Spence. I don't really rate him too much. I don't know how he's in the English squad, in my opinion. But Udogi is an all right player. We saw Ange get very good out of him. The midfield, Conor Gallagher, I like to an extent. But the other ones, I'm not really a fan of. I think Archie Gray is the only one that saves himself. I really like him, especially in the Atletico Madrid game and the Liverpool game. He had a very good games. And then I think this is a manager and a system where Xavi Simmons could probably get the best out of him if he does what De Zerbi asks, right? I think Xavi Simmons is one of those players that he needs a system. He needs specific roles. He's not a maverick like a Cole Palmer, right? He's not going to pick up the ball somewhere and just create something out of nothing. I think Xavi Simmons and Florian Wirtz are very system players, and I think Xavi Simmons needs a system to work around and to show his flares and things. So Lanky, I don't really rate Solanke, but I think him and Richarlison are an all right pairing, a striker pairing in the Prem. And yeah, I think does this change my ideas? Because I used to think Spurs were definitely going down, right? Because Igor Tudor and this manager and the players, and I just didn't see them winning a game. But under De Zerbi, knowing how he is as a manager, knowing how tactically aware he is, knowing how aggressive he is, and how much pressure and not pressure, but how much like attitude and character he's gonna put in these players. Yeah, how much character he's gonna put in these players, and if they don't play well, he's not gonna play them. If they don't do what they're told, he's not gonna play them. And he's a very aggressive manager. These Spurs players need a heavy hand because sometimes some of these players have attitudes that I just don't understand, right? And I think Roberto De Zerbi could keep them up. And then in the summer, I'm pretty sure they have to guarantee Roberto De Zerbi a couple of players outgoings, a good amount of players coming in. And I'm pretty sure they're going to give him a good amount of power when it comes to the type of players they get because that is how he runs. That is how he plays, right? He has a very specific attacking style. He's a heavy hand in the team. And I think for the Spurs to get him for 5 years, I that's what really surprised me. I thought they would give him like 2, 3 years with the relegation exit clause, but no, he's gonna stick by it 5 years, and that's I don't know, right? Because some of these sporting directors, especially nowadays, right? They want to control the players that come in. They want to dictate who comes in, who goes out, right? The directors, not the coach, not the manager. They want from the higher up, they want to control which player comes in, which player leaves, how much they could sell it. And they don't even look at the quality of players that for an instant impact, right? They look for maybe if this we could buy him for 10 million and sell him for 30 in 2 years, right? That's what these directors look at. But to get De Zerbi for 5 years, they had to promise him some very powerful decision making when it comes to for him to make some big decisions, right? And I just do if they don't follow through with promises like that, because I genuinely think they had to promise De Zerbi a good amount of power when it comes to signings and transfers. He's one of those managers that he could just leave and just say I'm going. He's one of those managers that just quits if he sees that things aren't going with how things were said when he signed. Right, this happened at Marseille. At Brian, he got pretty irritated at Brian. I'm pretty sure he was at another team before Marseille and after Brian, but I just can't remember. He had a couple fallouts from what I know with directors and players. I just I really like De Zerbi, and I really like Spurs putting him as a manager because I just always have enjoyed his football, whether it's at Marseille or Brighton. I've always enjoyed Roberto De Zerbi. He's a manager that I rate very highly. That I think he should be a top six manager in the Prem or in any other league, right? He can manage, in my opinion, he can manage a Newcastle, he can manage a Spurs, and it's crazy because relegation battling Spurs got a better manager than Champions League battling Chelsea. In that moment, before they signed Liam Rosinha, they could have gone to De Zerbi. They're battling for Champions League. They're battling for in that time they were battling in the round of 16s. Even before that, and they got Liam Rosinha. How does relegation battle Spurs have a better manager than Champions League battling Chelsea? I just find it crazy, but I love the Derby. With this appointment, I genuinely think they stay up. And I genuinely think that next season they'll have a very solid season, unless the Derby falls out with the directors and unless they don't keep the promises made to him. 5 years is a long time. And do I think he'll stay the 5 years? No. But what Spurs need right now is to stay up. That is the only thing any Spurs player, any Spurs manager, director, and fan should be thinking about is staying up because the battle is real. It's not 3 points, it's not 5 points, it's not 6 points. They're at 1 point off a relegation zone. They're gonna stay in the battle for the next 2, 3 weeks, right? But right now they're 1 point off a relegation zone, and then West Ham and Forest just have won a couple of games, right? They don't go on runs on 3 game winning runs, but they win games in certain points in certain moments. And what Spurs need to win, they need to win no matter what. And I think the Zerbi could get him 3 or 4 wins, and maybe 4 is a lot, but maybe 3 wins and a couple of draws and keep them up. But I think he'll keep them up, and I think they had to promise him a good amount of power in transfer because Roberto De Zerbi is very strict. He's heavy, like I've said so many times in this video. He is a heavy hand, but when it comes to being on the football pitch, the teams are very, very exciting, very attacking, very enjoyable, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited to watch his team. I'm excited to see how Spurs do, and I think this is a very important. I think this is a genius move by the directors, right? It wasn't a genius move to get Igor Tudor. It wasn't a genius move to keep the manager before that for so long, and Thomas Frank, right? They kept it too long. They appointed Igor Tudor in a very wrong moment, a very wrong appointment. But I genuinely think that Roberto De Zerbi is the perfect appointment. The perfect appointment. I think it will work. If you're a Spurs fan watching, this appointment will work. I love De Zerbi. I love his football. I love. He's a very aggressive manager, but I just like how the way his teams play, how aggressive he is, how he's into the game. He loves it. He's so into the game. He loves the football, and I think he will do very well at Spurs. And yeah, amazing appointment by Spurs. Amazing.